Oh, great holy, look at us. Look at our brokenness. Of all of the life in creation, we, the human family, are the only ones that stray from the good road. We are the ones who are divided. We are the ones that must come back together to walk in the sacred way, that we may heal the earth and heal each other.
My name is Robert Bone. I am from the Dakota Nation of Sioux Valley, Manitoba, Canada. One of the few remaining Dakota bands in Canada. I think there's probably 8 or 9 Dakota tribes that have gone into Canada and have stayed there, and our history is still intact, and our language is still spoken in our community, probably 75% yet. And sometimes it gets somewhat perplexing if you get caught up in the mainstream of things. Our people went to school and prohibited from talking our language. We went through that for maybe 40 or 50 years, and now as we sit back and notice, then they're paying us money to teach our people to talk the language again. So quite often we say, who is the crazy one in this whole affair? But I want to congratulate the people of Winona for taking the time to honor the Dakota. This must be commemorated and perpetuated and preserved and taken along, that every city in North America should follow through to make better relations for the First Nations people of all of North America. I think quite often we fail to recognize one another's maybe strengths and differences, work together and move ahead. And quite often when we attend gatherings such as this, you get such a good feeling out of it that like you're almost home. And if that can be duplicated across the country, I am sure what they call race relations across North America will vastly improve. And this is probably our 6th year coming to Winona, and it seems to get better every year. But we'll give a lot of credit to the leaders of Winona, Mr. Eric Sorensen, Bill McNeil, Dr. Bill McNeil, and Tim Pariza. We met them about 6 years ago at City Hall and spoke about what we can do together, and it's nice to see all the people come out, show interest. It is something that should be copied across North America. We all understand that we all come from one creator. We are all interconnected. There is no differences as far as we are concerned. But quite often those differences are expounded upon to create division. And we are sure that events such as this will bring us all together and possibly start a healing process for our people and everybody across North America. And for that reason, we come back and support it every year, and we will continue to do so.
Tell us about Lyle. When did you meet Lyle? What do you think of Lyle?
We met Lyle probably about 8 or 10 years ago. What we used to do with my grandsons was we would go out on unity rides or ride for world peace and prayer, and then sometimes in the summertime we ride as much as 1,200 miles on horseback, and we just camp out in the prairies or under the trees or along the river and just move along like that. That's a memorable occasion for the young people that ride with us and go with us and camp and move along. We rode across Montana, and we rode across Wyoming. We went to Devil's Tower. We've been there and we've seen everything that's come out. We've also taken part in the Bigfoot Memorial Ride in the wintertime as well too, and it's something that we are showing our young people that this is where we are, this is where we used to be, and this is the way it looks, and that's how we met Lyle. Lyle.
Is the Diversity Foundation supporting that, or you're supporting the Diversity Foundation, or you're working together?
Both. We do work for Diversity Foundation, kind of a volunteer effort, taking part, and as well we exchange videos of different rides, encampments, cultural camps, and Lyle and Ed Lohnes deserve a lot of credit for bringing out what we are all about.
Yeah, Lyle, about 4 years ago, he came to the tribe, the Santee Sioux Nation in northeast Nebraska, and he explained the goals and objectives of the Cultural Diversity, the Diversity Foundation here in Winona, on what they wanted to do, and what they were doing. And we, of course, as reservations, we're kind of skeptical about what is happening out there in the country, But when it refers to us, we thought, let's see what's going on here. And so we started to travel this direction. And when you know the history of Winona, the Red Wing and Wabasha, Teoshpai, this is where they loaded us and sent us to Davenport, Iowa. And so I came up with a lot of curiosity. And I stood in the background my 3 years ago, and I was watching and observing. And then I start to voice my concern, my opinion, start putting input into it. Next thing you know, they call upon me, to be able to assist culturally and spiritually, to make sure that everything was done in a good way. So last year I was part of it, and that's when I was kind of like a spiritual advisor. And this year I was the spiritual advisor, taking care of the honor guard, taking care of the morning blessings, the food and stuff like that. So Lyle introduced that. And he didn't ask us to come aboard. He didn't ask us to be part of it. He said he just encouraged it. So we went ahead and got to know Lyle pretty good, and he brought down the mayor. He brought down people of this community. And that's inspiring, when you're sitting in a tribal unit way down in Nebraska and Minnesota community comes in and says, this is what we're doing, Dakota Gathering, I don't think there's a city in the country or a village who is trying to do reconciliation with American Indians. This is probably the best year for Winona to be able to honor the Dakota Gathering, because this is a 150-year celebration for the state of Minnesota, and I don't know what else they're doing right now to acknowledge us, the original inhabitants of this state of Minnesota, And so that's the reason why now Dakota Gathering, I see it's growing. Other nations are beginning to look this way, the Ho-Chunk, the Ojibwe, a lot of tribes are looking this way and saying, what's happening here, And so hopefully this could be a precedent, to be able to reach out to all communities in the United States and see what they could do for their local tribes. Somebody has to make amends somewhere down the line because of the oppression and genocide that we had to experience, And so I think this is one of the finest gatherings, that I could say, that bringing American Indian, especially the Dakota and the non-Indians together. A lot of understanding. There's people that didn't even know that Dakotas used to live on this land here. They don't even realize that. But with the media and the gathering of this nature, a lot of awareness is happening. I see women that get up and cry. I ran a circle on Truth and Reconciliation yesterday, and there's a lot of emotions there, even from our own Indian people, and so that turned out real good, so I'm really glad that took place.
But one of the big things that we do in Prairie Island, I think, is like through diversity, is our grant funding, multiple years for them to help accomplish their mission, which their overall mission is to help our people, as we're all Dakotas, whether you're Mdewakanton, Wakbetuan, Saskatchewan, all the different ones, the tribes, the 7 bands, again, that's diversity's mission. And so we feel like we're kind of, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, I guess. So we're helping our local area here with diversity and the things they do, but in turn, diversity then is stepping out and helping the other tribes, in South Dakota, North Dakota, Canada, and all the areas. One of the successful things that we've been able to do is connect with our casino and diversity is our Toys for Tots, the drive that they do every year, and then being able to take numerous loads to different tribes as far as Devil's Lake and Sioux Valley, Santee, Standing Rock, all the different system. Lyle would know a little more about all them numbers, but I know, we were able to really accomplish some good things there.
I'm a member of the Flandreau Santee Sioux tribe, but I do not speak Dakota. I speak Lakota. And maybe one of the handful of people now in our tribe, Santee tribe, that can still speak, read, and write the language.
How I got involved into the Dakota-Winona Alliance is through Lyle Rustad. We've sponsored students off of the Santee Reservation in northeast Nebraska. We've had them down here at our technical college, which is just a mile from here. We've also had students at our state university, which is a mile in the other direction from here, and at St. Mary's, which is 2 miles down Highway 61 from here. So there's been about 8 students that have come off various reservations that were originally, their ancestors were originally from here because they camped not far from where the college is now. It was their original camp. And so through what Lyle's done with the Dakota-Winona Alliance, we've reached out to them. We've also taken clothes drives and drives for furniture and other things. And then our college has a truck driving program. So when we fill up the semis, we take them out every year and we drop them off at the reservations. And it's really a neat thing to not only get the city involved in things like that, but our students are the ones that drive out and see. And our president, James Johnson, when he rode with one of the instructors out there for the first time, when he saw the poverty that they lived in, that's when he dedicated himself to say that I'll sponsor students from these reservations to come out to the technical college. And it's worked really well.
Lyle Rustad came to us, to the city about 10 years ago. And he came because he had promised Ernie, Chief Wabasha, that he would find where his relatives were buried. And Lyle went down to the mayor. The mayor sent him to me in City Hall. And that's how we started a conversation. He then brought the Unity Writers quickly in '98, I think it was, to Winona from Manitoba, from what's called Sioux Valley. And we took the Unity Writers across the Mississippi. It was their ancestral home. They had heard about the river. They had never been there. They had never been allowed to be there. And so we took them across and became friends. We put a little white boy team together to play the moccasin game. I think they graciously let us win one round. And we started to know a little bit about one another. That story in and of itself started to be written about in Winona. And that brought out people in our community, people who had hidden their own heritage because they were ashamed of it. And they knew something was not right. And so that started a community discussion. We then went out. It seemed like every trip I took to the Dakotas, it always had to be snowing and blowing. And so I'm always assuming whenever I'm out on a reservation, it's not right unless there's snow and wind. And we went out, we met people, we started a dialogue. We went from southern Minnesota on that trip up to Spirit Lake, North Dakota. And we met tribal elders, we met education people, and we started to talk about how we might interact. I think I can fairly say on behalf of Winona, we wanted that relationship as much as we hoped we would be allowed to help wherever we could. And it's an even playing field. And that really is what has happened in the community. The people of Winona came out, participated. We're now at our 5th gathering. Everyone seems to be more involved, more real relationships, more friendships, and more understanding, more potential to learn about one another. And I think I can honestly say that the vast majority of Winonans have embraced the idea that we're all part of humanity. We can learn from one another. We have something to give, but we also want something in return, and that is now have symbolically small efforts that are occurring. We have what we call a donation drive. That's really an ongoing process. We have students here, I think 5 at the moment, at our universities or in colleges of higher learning. But it's really the tip of the iceberg. As many of the Dakota elders have said, even during this gathering, we have to help ourselves. I mean, you're not going to do everything for us. We don't want to do everything for the Dakota people. We'd like to be part of their lives where we can help. I'm an old city manager. I like sewer and water projects. The things that the Romans understood as pretty significant to quality of life, as we use that term today. And so where we can help, where we have expertise, where we have knowledge, those are the kinds of things we like to do. But in return, we want to help people feel like they're welcome back on their homeland and come and participate with us and help us grow our knowledge of our area, who were the people that were here first, understand why we're here, and have our little piece of I think, growing world understanding of peace.
Okay, so I'm really pleased with the gathering and the idea and the wishes behind it, because or the dreams behind it, because I think it's important that the truth about our history be told, and I think our kids need to know that, and because we need to be proud of who we are, where we came from, in order to continue to carry that pride into the next generations.
Well, yes, my name is Alan Childs II. Wambiwa Kankta Yamaki Apido, that is my Indian name, Wambiwa Kankta. It means the eagle, the highest. Like Wakantanka is the creator. Wakantuya is the highest, so you're really high, the highest of. So like it's high eagle, and then, but there's more to that, so, but I won't go into that right now. I'm from the Dakota community of Prairie Island. We say Tinta Winta. We're a Mdewakanton band of Dakotas, and we reside here in Minnesota. And so we're very honored to be here as part of the gathering as one of the 4 Sioux communities in Minnesota, or Dakota communities in Minnesota. And our part here over the years has been, we've been involved with the singing for the exhibition dancing and the hand moccasin games and things of that nature. And in the last few years, it's been exciting in our community because we've had a revitalization with the youth, and I've been I don't want to brag for myself, but I've been involved in that from the beginning in teaching our young boys to sing and moccasin games and things like that. So in the last 2 years now, they've been coming down here and accompanying us and singing with us and getting that exposure and learning those different things. And so we're really excited about that in Prairie Island. And again, we're really excited to be part of the Unity Festival here in the Dakota Homecoming. And so again, as you look behind me here, you see the backdrop and the hills and everything else, And this is a very important place in history for our people, as Mdewakatans especially. We lived all along this river here, all the way up to present-day Prairie Island, which is only about 60 miles south or northeast from here, right along the river also. And so as we come here, we remember those things, and every community has a different story of what happened after the exile of Minnesota and things like that. And Prairie Island is somewhat unique because it was founded by people that were still here in Minnesota even after the exile. As you look behind me in these hills, a lot of people stayed here and were able to hide here, or were able to be accepted by the non-Indians living here, because not everyone was involved in the uprising, or even if they were, people understood the circumstances of the times. And so there was some understanding at that time, but it was a very small group of Indians that was allowed to live there in Prairie Island and reside in that area. But over time, Eventually in the 1930s, Prairie Island was recognized by the federal government and given a tribal status and formed its government. And at that time, there was a kind of a homecoming for a lot of the people that were in Santee, Crow Creek, and different areas, because some of their family had still been able to reside here and eke out a existence in Minnesota. And so there was family for them, and a lot of them returned. So our community began to grow from there in the 30s, from probably maybe 100 people, and to present day now we're up over 700 people. And so, so that's kind of how Prairie Island has come to be, and how we are kind of involved in this homecoming and the whole history of, this reconciliation and things that are going on here in Winona. And we're very honored and proud to be a part of that. Our community has sponsored the diversity, Lyle and Ed, Diversity Foundation, with grant money over the last 3 years. And so we've been able to have a little more impact in things that they're doing and these great things. We've gifted, when Winona recently had very bad flood damage, there was a gift from our community. And all that happened, in the last few years, and I was lucky enough to be on the tribal council during that time in Prairie Island, and so I was able to be instrumental and be a part of all those things. And so that relationship has really grown and blossomed, and we continue to support this as they continue to support things that we do. The drives to the different Dakota communities, Crow Creek, Devil's Lake, things of that nature, Santee. We still know that there's a lot of reconciliation and things to be done, and so that work just continues on and on.
Okay, my name is Rick Thomas. Indian name is Tatonkamani, which is Walking Buffalo, which was a war chief after the 1862 Minnesota Uprising. And I just want to share, that I'm also acknowledged, especially for the Dakota Gathering, as a spiritual leader, to provide appropriate prayers, songs, honoring the veterans, honoring various leaders such as Chief Wabasha, some of the Indian leaders and spiritual leaders. We all come together like Danny Seaboy. We consult with each other to make sure everything is done in a good Dakota way, because there's a lot of misunderstanding, miscommunication as far as who we are. We're probably a very misunderstood ethnic group or cultural group in America. And I think it's just that time of 2008 to be able to sit down and say, okay, let's map our direction, my relatives, and bring our Dakota people back together, And so that's the reason why I wanted to get involved. I come from the Santee Sioux Reservation in northeast Nebraska. We are the ones that were exiled. We're the ones that ended up in northeast Nebraska. And my relatives were the ones that were hung in Mankato, 38. From there, they marched to Port Snelling, from Port Snelling to Davenport, Iowa, where we had 95 more of our people die in prison, not because of wounds, but because of starvation and freezing. And then from there down the Mississippi to the Missouri River to Crow Creek Reservation and to where we're at right now in Santee. So when you take a look at our history, it's such a traumatic trauma. And being a disabled combat vet, currently 100% disabled, I take a look at how traumatized my people were after the 1862 Minnesota Uprising. We're still today in this generation, we are still feeling the impact of the 1862 Minnesota Uprising, And we're scattered so far apart from each other, sometimes we don't even know that there's 4 more bands in Canada. And then also all the bands in Minnesota and Flangiu and Montana. I've always been told you need to know where you come from in order to know where you're going. And I think that's what's happening amongst Dakota people, is we call it Daku Wakanshkashka. There's something holy moving in Indian country. And we continue to proceed with that because we're the only race of people in the United States that has something to go back to. Our language, our traditions, our customs, our culture, you name it, it's there, And this is probably the best opportune time since 1968 when American movement started out. It awoke our spirit to be able to start looking at who we were.
Okay, my name is Rod Steiner, and I'm an enrolled member of the Santee Sioux Nation of Nebraska. And I've been coming to this homecoming for 5 years now, and Lyle Rustad got me involved in it as a member of the family of Wabasha that used to live here. My great-great-grandfather was Wabasha III, and we're sitting right under Wabasha's cap as we talk here. And it's good to come back here because these people have treated us like royalty. And I can't say enough for the city of Winona for what they're doing and what's developed in the last 5 years. Some people probably don't even know that we've already got children, or some of our children, enrolled in here in the colleges. And they've been giving them scholarships, and that was one of the first things I thought about what we needed to have done. And they've already accomplished that. And so I just expect nothing but good things to come from this, because they're very serious about what they're doing. Been here 5 years now, and like I said, a lot of people don't know what's developed over the last 5 years, and our relationship to the community, the leaders, the mayors, and even the mayor in Rochester, and we're starting to get people involved from Rochester and all of southeast Minnesota in this thing.
Okay, my name is Leonard Wabasha. I'm an enrolled member of the Lower Sioux Indian community, and this year I'll be 50. I'm employed with the Shakopee Bidawakanta Sioux Dakota community, and I've been there. Well, I retired from a large global conglomerate who will remain anonymous, but I spent 20 years with this company, and they're involved in control systems. But I was offered an opportunity to come and be part of a Dakota language program with the Shakopee Sioux community, and I didn't readily accept it because I had just finished a 20-year stint of working, and I wanted to take some time. So I took about, 4 or 6 weeks off, and I started working at Shakopee, and I've been there ever since. So.
We are all related. That not only with human beings, but all of creation. We're all related. Even the rocks and the stones and the hills and the trees, we're all related. We're all of one creator. So we're all one people, of one creation. So to address, the elders get up and say, Mitako Oasin. They conclude their speeches, their orations with the same Mitako Oasin. I think one of the underlying motives of this gathering is for the purpose of reconciliation. Too long we've been separated, not just by our race. We can enact legislation to do away with discrimination because of race, but we cannot legislate attitudes that come from our heart. So unless reconciliation is truly going to happen, it has to come from our hearts. And it has to be motivated by the greatest gift that we can have, a gift of love.
Well, on another sidebar, through my parents, we began to recognize the traumatic events, the terrible atrocities which occurred to the Minnesota Dakota, or actually the entire Dakota Nation. We're not just Minnesota, and that's, again, that's more propaganda, how we have barriers like that really don't exist, at least to Indian people. But I was involved with the Mankato Powwow, and we do a lot of reconciliation down there. We have an education day where we bring in 600-800 local area school children, and we share culture with them. That could be craft making, beadwork, some of our foods, just our way of life, I guess, and of course powwow.
So we can do no less than to reconcile with each other, whatever our differences. There are 3 ways that I see that we can begin this process based on the love. First, we need to build a bridge of mutual understanding. Too often we're suspicious, so we remain separated. And we need to understand why we speak differently or do things differently. And if we come together and we begin to communicate, we begin to understand why we act differently. And we begin to appreciate our differences. Now, this leads us to build a bridge of mutual enrichment based on the love of God. This means that we may have an idea, each one of us have separate ideas, and as long as we remain apart, we only have the one idea. When we come together and exchange those ideas, both of us become enriched. We no longer have the one idea, we have the idea of the other person. So we become rich by this coming together. And finally, we need to build a mutual respect. That I am a person, you are a person, no more, no less. We can even disagree and still be friends. So I think what Lyle is trying to do, in his own way, is to bring about a reconciliation of people who may have different cultures, different languages, whatever differences they may have. If we're brought together by this powerful word, love, what a glorious land and world we would have. Love would dispel hatred, discrimination, separation, bring us together. It would solve the problems.
Well, Lyle is really a character. And I think he's got a heart as big as they come. And he does some fantastic things. You know, I know he's brought several loads of furniture down to Santee, and because we have a number of folks down there that need help. And he also came down one year with a semi-load of toys, and he played Santa Claus. And it tickled me because he had this, not only the Santa Claus outfit, but he had the makeup and everything on, you know, and so he just did a really great job. And so, you know, and the folks here, you know, I think they're just doing something really magnificent.
Go to the Diversity Foundation that Lyle Rustad runs. He's been the central core in all this. He's been the go-between between the reservations and the colleges in town and universities, and that would help a lot. There's a lot that they need to keep them here. Not only the tuition that we help them with and some of the living things, but we need to have more things for them to be able to do around here and keep the ties to back on the reservations as well. It's a long ways from home.
And as we learn really more about Lyle's mission in life, he's an old Vietnam vet like I am, and he came out of Vietnam, wound up in the civil rights movement in South Carolina. When his father was dying, his mother asked him to come back home to our area, Rushford. And he came back, as he would tell you, he knew nothing at the time about the Dakota people. He was ashamed of the fact, being from this area, that he didn't even know this was called Wapashaw's Prairie. And he met Ernie Chief Wapashaw at the 95 Indigenous Games. Ernie figured out where Lyle was from and simply asked, "Can you help me find where my people are buried?" That's how Lyle came to Winona and started doing some research. We all helped him as he asked for it, and he's a wonderful human being. He has more ability than the rest of us collectively to make people comfortable on the reservations when we show up. He's our conduit to that relationship. And he's done that for us from Santee, Nebraska to Sioux Valley, Manitoba. And every time I go with Lyle, not quite sure when I'm going to get there or get back, we learn more. He learns more. He's done an awful lot of research. He's recorded now for years stories that are disappearing. As the elders die, those stories die with them. And so that's what he's been doing. And he's our leader.
Lyle first showed up at the Mankato powwow, several years ago. I don't even remember how long it's been, at least 10 years, maybe 15. And he had this diversity foundation, and he thought what we were doing over there was really great, because down there we talked about the horrors of the past of the Dakota, the hanging of the 38, and everything that the exile, back then words like genocide and stuff like that weren't used, but assimilation was. And I don't know, Lyle got around, and sometimes he'd get on your nerves because he would just talk way too much, never shut up, and he'd call and use up all the tape on my answering machine, or he'd send me a 5 or 6 page email, and it just he got on my nerves, I have to admit, and sometimes today he still does, but Lyle's Lyle, and he's doing some good things. As far as Winona goes, Winona and I don't know how to say this really without bringing up AIM, but AIM came about because of the oppression of the American Indian people, and they took care of that oppression, brought it to light, just like the Mankato powwow did. We talked about oppression and we brought it up. Well, today we're still under suppression through the media, through the government, other various sources of the government arm. And down here at Winona, when I was first asked to come to Winona, I knew the history of this country, and I knew this is where my earliest predecessors lived. Wapahasha I and Wapahasha II were down here before the treaties were ever signed, and we came down here, and one of the very first times, and we were with one of the local newsmen, and he was doing an interview with my father, and we were up here on Garvin Heights, and we were looking out, and my dad says, "This is really a beautiful place," and the reporter says to my dad, "Yeah, this is a really beautiful place. Why did your people leave?" And it's like, what? And so the guy created a major faux pas, and somehow out of that was one of the first the meetings that we had with the local people here at Winona. But because Indian people are still being suppressed is the reason why I chose this place, because here we had non-Indian people extending their hand out, not to give the Indian a handout, but to give us a hand up, to let us tell our story. So we went from oppression to suppression, and here we're able to, begin expression. We can talk about the tragedies, what happened to our people, without fear of reparation, negatively speaking, of course. But the people here, these are some of the kindest, most generous people. And at first I didn't think they were serious, but they began to build an arena, and hopefully next year that arena will be complete. And I talked with the landscaper, which also surprised me, as they involved me in the landscape of the arena, arbor or whatever, and it's made from stone that came from a bridge foundation that nearby here, but actually that stone came off of the sugar loaf, and they used to call that Wabasha's cap, because Wabasha had received field marshal's uniform from the British government back in the day for something. He went up there, he offered himself to the British because one of his men had taken a trader's life, and they needed guns at that time because the French were involved with the Ojibwe, and they had weapons and we didn't, and so that's why Wabasha did that. So Wabasha actually saved his people, and there's a whole story, that we probably don't have time to go in here today, but if you were interested, you can research that and discover that story. I believe it happened in the late 1700s. But we were able to talk about all the atrocities, and we were able to get people down here to listen. You know, we had that first year or two, we had local politicians, a federal judge, a bishop or cardinal from the Catholic faith in the area come down here, and he dressed as a black robe just to symbolize that part of history for our people, the way Christianity robbed us and cheated us and killed us. But he came and he offered an apology, and I was really struck by that, and I thought the people down here really do want to make a change. You know, they're welcoming us back, and just one thread of the generosity I've seen here is when the Dakota come back to this place, they're offered a place to stay. They're given gas mileage. They're fed. You know, they're taken care of just like you would family members or relatives. But it's really a great place, and I really, you know, my hat's off to these people. I know that's not an Indian thing to say, but you know, I'm from a contemporary world now, so.
Well, I just want to say, you know, it's been an honor for me that the Creator put me in places for me to know where I stand today, you know. And then my children, they're all talking their language, or singing the songs, or sundancing. Been a Sundance chief for 35 years, you know. And so it helped me to maintain my sobriety, away from alcohol, away from drugs, and become a role model for our Indian people, you know. So, and that's basically what I'm doing here in Winona now, is they asked me if I wanted to be the spiritual leader, advisor, and it was an honor to be able to be part of that in that way with Ambrose Little Ghost from Spirit Lake Nation. A lot of us from the different bands, traditional people that still living our life, not practicing, living our way of life, to be able to walk so others can walk and leave some good tracks for our younger generation to follow. You know.
We have to come with an open heart. Say, I'm willing to give myself to this effort. If I withhold, then I'm not a true believer in peace.
And so, you know, but I've really enjoyed working with Lyle and Ed. I know Ed, you know, has kind of turned things over to Lyle a little more, but you know, I really enjoyed working with them guys. They were very instrumental in getting me involved in the beginning, and I think they were very instrumental in working to get the community as a whole involved from Prairie Island. You know, when I say whole, I guess I mean as the tribal council, to support their mission and continue to help them to do the work that they were doing. And so, you know, I can't say enough about Lyle, though. I mean, he's just such a great guy. You know, he's got irons in every pot, and he seems to be able to keep them all going between the church organizations and the Rochester organizations and the Winona organizations here, and Crow Creek and Devil's Lake and Siston and Santee and all the vets groups and the honor guards and Sioux Valley, and you know, just so many things going on. And you know, to continue to pull this off with the small amount of assistance that they do get for monetarily and different things, to continue to pull this feed off every year and do this and make it such a great thing for us as Dakotas. I mean, I can't speak for what the non-Indians get out of this event, but I continue to see the numbers here and the amount of people coming here and wanting to be a part of this. And, you know, so I got, you know, the good feeling I get from this, and the children I bring in, the feelings that we get when we leave here and things like that. You know, I can't see how that's not being passed on to all the non-natives here, and it shows by the amount of people continuing to come. So, you know, again, my hat's always off to Lyle for all the things and the great things he does, and, you know, keeps me going too. You know, there's times when I don't want to do things, you know, and I'm not motivated sometimes, and so Lyle's got a way to keep you going. So
this kind of gathering is going to spread. It's my belief. We were doing this type of work long before it hit the media, and nobody knows about it, and I don't know why that is. The local newspapers print articles, and we even actually have a columnist from the metropolitan area who he like follows the family around because we're getting involved in all this. You know, we finally got some white people to help us and listen, you know, and they're doing something, you know, and it's it's so positive. It's just so positive. They're always putting something I say on the back of a T-shirt down here, and and that's kind of egotistical of me to say, but I think about those things, and it's like someday it'll be another Indian person that they'll do that to, and that's really what it's about for me, is to take something positive and make it even more positive, because this is going to grow. I'm hoping that this will turn into a cancer of peace amongst people, amongst nations of people, because we are all that we have.
And I think that Lyle, in his own way, however humble, whatever humble beginnings he may begin with, ultimately, if we all believe in what he is trying to do, think of the tremendous revolution that would take place in our lives. Yeah? Small things, small ideas can grow into tremendous words of wisdom and action, and transform our attitudes and revolutionize our world. A world of peace where dignity and respect may reign.